Cryptography is often introduced as secret code, but that definition is too small for the role it plays today. In modern systems, cryptography is the machinery that lets people and organizations trust digital actions even when networks are exposed to interception, manipulation, and impersonation. Every online payment, account login, software update, and private message depends on this machinery working correctly. The key idea is adversarial thinking. You assume attackers may read traffic, alter data, replay old messages, or pretend to be legitimate participants. Cryptography answers that environment by building protocols that preserve specific guarantees. It protects confidentiality so unauthorized parties cannot read content. It protects integrity so tampering becomes detectable. It supports authentication so systems can verify who is participating. And it enables non-repudiation so signed actions can be linked back to accountable parties. These are not abstract goals, they are operational requirements for digital commerce and communication. Without them, trust collapses into manual verification, fraud rises, and large-scale online coordination becomes brittle. So cryptography is best understood as trust engineering under hostile conditions, where success means ordinary users can transact safely without seeing the complexity underneath. Historically, cryptography was much closer to its popular image. It centered on encryption, converting plaintext into ciphertext so only intended recipients could reverse the process through decryption. In the traditional teaching model, Alice sends a message, Bob receives it, and Eve tries to intercept it. That model remains useful because it captures the core conflict between authorized understanding and unauthorized confusion. Early approaches used substitutions, transpositions, and later mechanical systems such as rotor machines. Those methods could be powerful for their time, but they were often broken through pattern analysis, key reuse, operational mistakes, and predictable human habits. One lesson carried forward into the digital era is that strong method plus weak process still fails. Another is that secrecy of method is fragile. Robust systems should remain secure even when attackers know how the algorithm works, as long as keys remain secret. As communication shifted from letters and radio traffic to global packet networks, the payload expanded far beyond text. Now we secure identities, transactions, cloud data, and machine instructions. The classical encryption mindset still matters, but modern cryptography had to grow into a broader architecture because digital risk is no longer only about eavesdropping. It is equally about forgery, tampering, and scalable automation by attackers. Modern cryptography is grounded in mathematics and implemented through computer science and engineering practice. Its core strategy is not magical unbreakability but controlled infeasibility. Designers choose problems believed to be hard enough that solving them would require impractical resources in relevant time windows. This is called computational security. It means attacks may be theoretically possible while remaining operationally unrealistic. That distinction is central to professional security work. Real defenders do not optimize for philosophical certainty, they optimize for attack cost, detection windows, and consequence management. A cryptosystem is viable when breaking it is more expensive than the value or lifetime of the target. But this only holds if implementation quality matches theoretical intent. Weak randomness, software bugs, timing leaks, and poor key storage can undermine mathematically sound designs. So cryptographic assurance is always composite: algorithm choice, key size, protocol flow, implementation discipline, hardware behavior, and operational controls must align. This is why cryptography spans multiple fields, including information security, electrical engineering, and even physics in some contexts. It also explains why mature teams audit code, test assumptions, and monitor new research continuously. In this domain, proof and practice must reinforce each other. If either side is neglected, security degrades faster than most organizations expect. To appreciate trade-offs, compare information theoretic security with computational security. Information theoretic security means no attacker can break protection even with unlimited computing power. The one-time pad is the classic example, but only under strict conditions. The key must be truly random, as long as the message, never reused, and perfectly secret. In narrow settings, that can work. At internet scale, it is usually impractical because generating, distributing, and safeguarding massive one-time keys is operationally heavy. Most modern systems therefore accept computational security, where safety depends on hardness assumptions and resource limits of real attackers. This is not a compromise in the casual sense. It is an engineering decision that balances strong protection with usability and performance. The important point is context. A short-lived session token may need protection for minutes. Sensitive state communications may need decades. Different timelines imply different risk tolerances and cryptographic choices. Problems arise when organizations treat all data as equal or assume current security margins will remain stable forever. As compute power rises and attack techniques improve, margins shrink. Good cryptographic strategy is therefore dynamic. Reassess assumptions, upgrade parameters, retire weak primitives, and align protection strength with data sensitivity and required secrecy duration. Another misconception is that encryption alone secures a system. In practice, security comes from protocols that combine multiple cryptographic components. Encryption protects content, but key exchange determines how secrets are established. Hashing helps detect change and supports compact integrity checks. Message authentication and digital signatures verify origin and accountability. Certificate infrastructures bind keys to identities so users can trust endpoints rather than just math. Random number generation underpins key unpredictability. If any one layer is weak, the full system can fail despite strong components elsewhere. Consider a secure web session. Client and server negotiate parameters, validate certificates, derive session keys, and then encrypt and authenticate traffic. If certificate validation is bypassed, attackers can impersonate servers. If random generation is flawed, keys may become predictable. If protocol downgrades are allowed, stronger options can be replaced with weaker ones. This system's perspective explains why many high-profile incidents are not dramatic breaks of famous algorithms but failures in integration, configuration, or lifecycle management. Cryptography provides reliable primitives, not automatic outcomes. Reliable outcomes require disciplined assembly, conservative defaults, tested implementations, and clear operational procedures around key creation, rotation, revocation, and incident response. The practical footprint of cryptography is enormous. Electronic commerce depends on secure channels that protect credentials and payment data from interception and modification. Chip-based payment cards use cryptographic mechanisms to confirm authenticity during transactions and reduce certain fraud classes. Password systems rely on cryptographic transformations so stolen databases do not immediately reveal raw passwords. Digital currency systems apply signatures and hash-linked structures to verify transaction legitimacy and ownership claims across distributed participants. Software distribution uses signing to ensure updates are authentic and unaltered before installation. Military and government communications rely on cryptographic protections where compromise can affect strategy and safety. What unifies these use cases is not identical technology but common trust requirements under adversarial pressure. Cryptography enables strangers to coordinate with confidence at global scale. Without it, online interactions would require slower and costlier verification, and many services would become too risky to operate. This is why cryptography is infrastructure, not a niche feature. People rarely notice it when it works, which is exactly the point. Like reliable electricity, its success is measured by stable expectations, transactions complete, identities hold, and data remains trustworthy despite constant attack attempts in the background. Because cryptography protects power as well as privacy, it sits inside recurring legal and political conflict. Governments value strong encryption for economic stability and national security, yet many also fear losing investigative access when suspects use protected communication. This tension has produced export controls, restrictions, and legal frameworks that can compel key disclosure or decrypted access in certain investigations. Supporters of such powers argue they are necessary for public safety and lawful enforcement. Critics argue that exceptional access mechanisms can weaken overall security, create abuse opportunities, and expose populations to broader risk if safeguards fail. The technical challenge is severe. Systems engineered to provide selective bypass for trusted actors can also create pathways exploitable by untrusted actors. Meanwhile, software and open-source tools cross borders quickly, making national control uneven in practice. So policy decisions around cryptography shape not only policing capability but also civil liberties, journalistic protection, dissident safety, and international technology competitiveness. There is no zero-cost position. Strong policy requires acknowledging trade-offs transparently, building oversight with real accountability, and avoiding claims that promise both universal privacy and universal exceptional access without systemic risk. Cryptography forces institutions to confront how much uncertainty and power concentration society is willing to accept. Cryptographic security is not static because the threat landscape is not static. Advances in algorithms, hardware acceleration, distributed computing, and implementation attack methods can all erode previously adequate protections. A cipher once considered conservative can become borderline if key sizes are too short or if new mathematical shortcuts reduce attack cost. Even without algorithmic breakthroughs, operational realities change. Cloud resources make brute force campaigns cheaper, and leaked credentials improve attacker targeting. That is why standards evolve and older primitives are deprecated. But migration is difficult. Legacy platforms, embedded devices, compliance dependencies, and interoperability requirements can trap organizations on aging cryptography. This creates cryptographic debt, hidden exposure that accumulates quietly until a breach or emergency migration forces expensive remediation. Strong programs treat cryptography as lifecycle governance. They inventory where algorithms are used, track dependencies, define upgrade paths, and rehearse key rotations before crisis conditions. They also monitor research and threat intelligence to time transitions proactively rather than reactively. The strategic goal is resilience under change. Security teams do not need perfect foresight, but they need systems that can adapt without catastrophic disruption. In cryptography, adaptability is itself a defense control, because yesterday's assumptions rarely remain sufficient indefinitely. For builders and decision-makers, the most useful approach is requirement-first design. Start by defining the guarantees your system must provide, what data must remain confidential, what records must be tamper-evident, what identities must be strongly verified, and where legal accountability is necessary. Then map each requirement to established cryptographic primitives and battle-tested protocol patterns. Avoid custom cryptography unless you have exceptional expertise and external review, because subtle design errors are easy to introduce and hard to detect before exploitation. Use reputable libraries, keep defaults conservative, and document key management as a primary system function, not an afterthought. Control who can access keys, segment privileges, log sensitive operations, and plan revocation procedures in advance. Treat secrets as hazardous assets that demand strict handling discipline. Also communicate security properties honestly to users and stakeholders. Overstated claims create dangerous expectations and legal risk. Cryptography can substantially reduce attack surface and fraud potential, but it cannot erase all risk from weak governance or poor operations. Effective security comes from the combination of sound cryptographic design, reliable implementation, and organizational habits that respect how quickly trust can be lost when any one layer fails. In the end, cryptography is best seen as a long-term social and technical contract. Technically, it is a disciplined method for preserving confidentiality, integrity, authentication, and accountability in adversarial environments. Socially, it underwrites digital trust across commerce, communication, governance, and personal life. Its power is real, but so are its limits. Guarantees depend on assumptions, implementations, and operational competence. Its policy implications are unavoidable because control over encrypted systems affects rights, markets, and state authority. If there is one durable takeaway, it is that cryptographic trust is maintained, not granted. It requires continuous re-evaluation as computing power rises and attack strategies evolve. Organizations and institutions that understand this invest in lifecycle planning, transparent risk trade-offs, and rigorous deployment discipline. Those that do not tend to discover too late that security theater is not security. In a world where digital interactions scale instantly and adversaries automate relentlessly, cryptography remains one of the few tools capable of creating durable trust at scale. But it only works as intended when mathematics, engineering, operations, and governance are treated as one connected system rather than separate checkboxes. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.